Greetings, friends. Welcome to an episode of Black Metal and Brews, or in this case, I guess, Bizarre Drone and Brews. This is going to be a lengthy tape, so we're going to start with that pretty much right away. I'll just show you details of the tape I'm throwing in. Pretty simple. This is a Trollmann of Ildtoppberg. Gosh, the name translates to, I had it about 30 minutes ago. I believe it's Warlock of the Fire Mountain, from a fantasy novel the band named themselves after. This is, in my mind, kind of bridges the gap between some of the eerier strains of Doom and darker strains of Dungeon Synth, Dark Ambient, perhaps. The song that we're going to enjoy today is called Brief and Powerless. It's an entire side of a tape from this album entitled Sedoozy. I only know the first part of it. Hi, Jareth. As the fog clears but for a moment, weary travelers behold the majesty of the snow-clad mountains of Crom, bathed in ancient starlight. Jareth, do not. Sweet pea, please. So, very fantastical. This box set was released by Dungeon Tapes, one of my favorite little labels just last year. The inlay is simple. It's pretty much exactly what the casing looks like. But, you know, we're here for the quality of the music, not for the rest of it. Still, I do love the packaging. It's really nice to have something like this, all sturdy and big. Today's beer from Logsdon. It's the Kili. We've had one of their beers before. I believe it was the Saison, or however you pronounce their Saison. It's spelled like Seizoen. This bottle was given to me less than a month ago from a friend for my birthday, but it says it expired in October 2015. So, Portland beer store, please check your stock. Don't just sell us old beer because you can. I'm sure this is great. I did a little research and saw some other folks had older bottles too, and they weren't too bad. It's a best before, not a poison after, so I'm not gonna die. But look at that pour. That's a marvelous color. Look at that. Wow. Can't really get it much closer to you there, sorry. You can still see the gist of what's going there. Kind of thin head, but that's dense foam, but the quality of it's very liquid. You're not dry at all. Loving the way it's dissipating. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna let you guys get a better look in there. Look at that. That's just lovely the way it's slowly making beautiful little lacing there. I don't think I got this at quite the angle I had it before. A little up there so you can not cut off my forehead. So you can hear that just heavy rumble. Really cool. Really wonderful tape. Wonderful group. This was recorded in 2007, so this is old. But one of the two members of the group is, at least if YouTube comments are to be understood, no longer alive, so don't think there's going to be a whole lot more from Trollmann of Ildtoppberg, but everything they've put out, that I've heard at least, has been fantastic. I think I've got 3 or 4 of their albums on tape. All really just very, very doomy, but, obviously on this side of the doomy spectrum. Gorgeous music if you want to just, get lost in fantasy depth. If I did tabletop gaming, I imagine it'd be great for setting an atmosphere for that, but I don't do tabletop gaming because I don't have friends who want to. Maybe I'll change that one day. So the smell, definitely got some banana, some grass. My cat is falling asleep and looking really cranky over here. She really wanted to chew on the phone. I can tell it's definitely not as fresh, given that it expired, 8-9 months ago. However, still a nice crispness, a little peppery, actually a lot of peppery, but not overwhelmingly so. Slightly sour fruit, but not overwhelming. Tropical. Mostly just nice. Really refreshing. Mellow, obviously. I think this would have been a little crisper had I had it closer to the bottling date. And that's okay. Give that a good little shake now. Just got some space in there for that. But, you know, there's some serious sediment going here. This is just all murk, and I kind of love that. Almost, you know, like, you can practically see the yeast strains in a beer or whatever. That's really exciting to me for some reason, because I'm a nerd. So Logsdon is based out of Hood River, Oregon, so they're pretty local to us here in Portland. It's about an hour, 75-minute drive. This beer in particular is, 5.5% alcohol, so perfectly drinkable. Great for a warm summer day like the one we're having. This is just, I think that it's a good enough wit as is, and it's not even in its prime. Every beer I've had from Logsdon, and I've only had a couple times, but gosh, they really do well. And admittedly, I do kind of love the Viking-esque branding, but this one too, you can see they got, obviously a very African theme there because it's named after Mount Kilimanjaro, and this is a portion of the purchase price of Kili is donated to K2 Adventures Foundation, a nonprofit that takes people from all over the world to the summit in the name of adventure and community service, specifically medical and educational enrichment for children. So, helps kids out, takes people to the peak of K2, which is pretty wild. That's really cool. So, drinking is already good enough. Drinking for charity? I can hang with that. Especially that sense of adventure. I mean, this music I get, for some of you may not feel very adventurous, but it definitely, especially given all the long-winded titles and imagery that goes along with Trollmann of Ildtoppberg's music, just fantastic visuals. It really does better in low light, but you don't want to watch a black screen while I tell you, gosh, there's a beer here. Wish you could see it. So it's a little subtler on the palate as it sits, which is fine. It's refreshing. I'd love to have a fresh bottle of this, really get that full experience, because I know this is a year-round brew for this brewery. I believe they're obviously regionally available, but I believe that Logsdon is slowly and surely getting a little greater distribution, at least if the internet's to be believed. Although I know that some beer geeks, bust their hump to get weird beers, so perhaps people saying they drank it in other states are just on their trading game in a way that I'm not. Couldn't tell you. But keep an eye out. These guys do great things. All their beers are organic too, which obviously if you've seen my videos isn't always my highest concern, but I prefer to drink things that are, not laden with a bunch of junk, but, I consume a bunch of junk too, and I'm still here, I'm still okay. But I respect the dedication of a craft brewer to use organic ingredients. So, hope all is well with you, dear viewers. It's really nice to share these moments. We don't do it often enough, and I'm trying to increase the frequency of what I do here, because I think that you all deserve a little more regularity from me, given that this is all I do now. And if you weren't aware of the fact that this is all I do now, well, yeah, this is all I do now. I write, I YouTube. YouTube isn't a verb. I film videos for YouTube. And, I'm trying to make ends meet doing these things. It's imperfect for now, but it's enjoyable. you can really hear that just churning, droning guitar there. This duo, I guess I haven't really mentioned it, it's guitar and keys, which you can probably hear the keys a little more subtly. My phone doesn't always pick these things up as well. Just some of those overtones, though, the more haunting, higher sounds, are definitely a keyboard or synthesizer, and they're lovely. There's footage of this group performing in 2003. It's like a 30-minute video, really cool, from, I believe it's called Harsh Fest. I've watched it a few times. It's definitely something, requires focus. You know, this isn't the kind of music that you just, well, either, I guess for some people it's probably total background music, but, you know, for me it's really intent music. You know, a lot more happens in drone and ambient music than people give it credit for. But if you're not actively listening, it's a lot harder than if you're listening to a song with a lot of motion in it and a lot of busyness. So many subtle shifts, so many emotions, so much movement that is just, it's subtle, more like kind of, you know, the grinding of a tectonic plate or the changing of seasons. It's still in motion, if anything, it's huge, but it's not like, you know, a song that has all sorts of peaks and valleys in the course of 3.5 minutes, which each has its merit, and I like both a lot. Before this, I was listening to Axomite, and that's definitely not long, slow developments. That's chaos in 2.5 minutes or less sometimes. So, this group, again, no longer with us. There's a Bandcamp page with 3 of their albums, including this one. I'll drop a link in the comment. Hi, Jareth. Dungeon Tapes, the label that put this out, does a lot of great drone, black metal, dungeon synth, etc. And hi. And they're a label worth your time, worth your support. Come on. Come on, kid. So, if it sounds like your sort of thing, I mean, these guys have put out all sorts of great stuff. Did a Toil box a while back. Put out tapes like got Nefaria, all sorts of really wonderful, really raw, really ugly bands. You know, and sometimes, you know, I think during a more prosperous period of my life financially, I just kind of on a whim just grabbed a bunch of things from them, and a Trollmann Ildtoppberg tape was one of them. It just kind of became a band I really got into. Goodness, I wish you would have done this like 10 minutes ago so that our friends could have seen more. Such is the life of cats. They wait until the least opportune moment to make everything so sweet. Thank you. Oh no. What a sweet pea. It's a shame she's deaf, because normally this kind of music, she'll sit near the speaker for to really feel it, because I think it lulls her to sleep. But she's too far from it to even know there's music on right now, obviously, and clearly she's got higher priorities, like shoving her head in my armpit. Hi. Well, I'll give you guys a minute of cat time before we call this good. Hi. Oh, there we are. Is it better with a proper lap? You don't need beer. Promise you don't need beer. Life is weird. Cats are weird. But they're both good things too. Hi. breath is disgusting, sweetie. So, it looks like my night is quickly becoming committed to the snuggle. The snuggle is real. So that's the end of that side of the tape. Here I am with a very snuggly cat who is probably going to fall asleep within the next 10 minutes. Or decide she's seen something worth hunting that doesn't exist and then run across the room. So I just wanted to take a minute and say thank you all for taking the time to hang with us. It's really nice to have support, community, etc. Really nice to have a cat. And I just, I have a lot of fun doing this. And I hope you guys have fun watching it. For those of you who stuck around for the 16 minutes this has been, thanks. You guys are great. Gonna end this now with a little close-up on the real star. So, from myself and Jareth, good night. Cheers.